Hello. I'm Sally, your host. Welcome to the third board, my master's chess channel. Here I will show you games from great players of the past, and other chess-related content. Today's video is part 1, of an instructive game, played between the Estonian Grandmaster Paul Keres, and the Russian Grandmaster Mikhail Botvinnik, in 1941. Mikhail Botvinnik, who would become the 6th world champion in 1948, was also famous for his game analyses, and his extensive and methodical preparations. This game is a nice example of how his preparations paid off. Well, let's begin. Paul Keres has white and stars with pawn to d4. Mikhail Botvinnik plays knight to f6. And after c4, e6, knight to c3, bishop to b4. We have on the board the Nimzo-Indian Defense. The game continues with queen to c2, d5. Black attacks the center with a center pawn. This goes against the spirit of this opening, which is to attack the center with pieces, or wing pawns. However, since white has moved his queen to b2, leaving the d4 pawn defenseless, Botvinnik thought it is justified for black to advance his pawn to d5. The game continues with c takes on d5, e takes on d5, bishop to g5, h6, bishop to h4. By retreating the bishop to h4, white wants to keep the knight pinned. Black's next move will make the game immediately tense. Botvinnik plays c5. Black continues to exploit the weakness of white's d4 pawn. Botvinnik commented that he had played c5 in previous games to avoid variations which originated from the move bishop e6, which he did not like. In one of these games where he played c5, his opponent with white replied with castle's queenside, and had a good opening. Paul Keres plays castle's queenside. Keres adopts the same move in this game, probably because he studied Botvinnik's game, and considered this move satisfactory. In that game, Botvinnik castled kingside, and the game continued neutral. Botvinnik also commented that, 5 years earlier, he had studied a response for white's move, but had just forgotten about it in that previous game. He did not forget this time. Castling queenside seems a good move for white, as it defends the center with the rook, eliminates the knight's pin, and protects the king. However, this move is at least a risky one. Notice that, first, white's kingside pieces are undeveloped. And second, the queen's bishop file, and the diagonal b1 h7 can be used for an attack on the exposed white's king. Botvinnik plays bishop takes on c3. The c3 knight had to go. It was the most important of white's pieces in this position, and black had to eliminate it, in order to protect the center, and open the queen's bishop file. Keres responds with queen takes on c3. White also could have taken the f6 knight first. After that, the game could have continued with queen takes bishop, queen takes bishop, knight to c6. Black would still have the initiative, but white would be in a better position than he had in the game. Back to the game. Black plays g5. Now white can no longer take the f6 knight. This knight is very important, since he protects the center, and will participate in the assault on the white king. It is true that this pawn move also weakens black's king side, but here, these positional weaknesses are of less importance. In positions like this, in which the attack develops very quickly, what the defending side, in this case white, needs most, is time to organize the defense. The game continues with bishop to g3. C takes on d4. Black now tries to open the queen's bishop file. White now has to take back the pawn with the queen or the rook, which will allow black to develop the knight on c6, gaining tempo, as it will attack one of those pieces. White plays queen takes on d4. If instead of queen takes on d4, Keres had taken the pawn with the rook, we could have the following continuation. Knight to c6. Rook to d1. Castles. e3. Bishop to f5. Bishop to d3. Knight to e4. Queen to a3. And black would be better. Let's return to the game. Black plays knight to c6. Queen to a4. Keres pins the black knight. He forces black to waste some time to release the c6 knight. This temporarily prevents the opening of the queen's bishop file. Botvinnik plays bishop to f5. This move has multiple purposes. It develops the bishop. It controls the diagonal b1 h7. It prevents the white king from escaping to b1. And it opens space for the rook to come to c8. Notice how the white king is suddenly in danger. The game continues with e3. Rook to c8. Bishop to d3. Keres develops his bishop too. It blocks the diagonal b1 h7, counterattacks the black bishop, and tries to secure the b1 square for the king's escape. But the king's situation in the queen's side is already too precarious. Instead of bishop to d3, Botvinnik recommended for white to bring the knight near to the king. In this case, the game could have continued with knight to e2. a6. Knight to c3. b5. Queen takes on a6. b4. Bishop to b5. Bishop to d7. But black would still have the advantage. Instead of bishop to d3, Stockfish recommends king to d2, for white, in order to transfer the king to the king's side. In this case, the game could have continued with castles. King to e1. Queen to e7. Bishop to e2. d4. Knight to f3. D takes on e3. This move allows the white bishop to come to d6, but with the intention of sacrificing the exchange. Continuing the variation. Bishop to d6. E takes on f2 check. King to f1. Queen to e3. Bishop takes on f8. Rook takes on f8. Queen to a3. Queen to b6. Knight to d2. Rook to d8. Knight to c4. Rook takes on d1 check. Bishop takes on d1. Queen to d4. But the position would still be better for black. Let's return to the game. After bishop to d3, what should black play to continue the attack? Botvinnik's next move does not involve brilliant tactics. It is simple, logical, and effective, and I am sure that many experienced players will be able to find it. It may be difficult for beginners. Can you find it? Did you like this game so far? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want notifications of more content like this, please subscribe to this channel. I shall narrate this game's conclusion in the next video. Thank you, and see you again in part 2. Goodbye.